or tactical team.
Hey there guys, this is me Malorian, and this will be another Orc Tactical Team. Now today we're going to be touching on another touchy subject. This will be another little bit of a controversial one, and this is going to be the whole idea of farming. Now farming is something you do in tournaments, and I'm going to be first talking about what farming is, how it can be really good, and then how it can be really bad. So first of all, when I talk about farming, what does that even mean? Well, normally when you're playing a game, you'll be going in and trying to win either by assassination scenario or death clock, and really sometimes it's like, okay, well this will have a better chance than this, but I'm pretty much just going to be doing whatever I can to win that game. Well, when it comes to a tournament, things get a little bit more complicated. I mean, of course, if you win all your games, it's really easy, boom, 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 I'll be number one. Alright, doesn't matter how I won. However, if you lose even one game, well, that means you're going to be ranking somewhere below that. And where you rank is going to be based off your tie breaks. So each tournament is different on what tie break is going to be first, second, third, and all that. But in general, you'll be looking at things like control points, points destroyed, and I mean, strength of schedule can be in there as well, and other things as well, depending on what the tournament is. Now, what that means then is that if you lost a game, or you think in the future you might lose a game, and so you want to set yourself up to be higher in the standings, you might farm your opponent. So you might be in a spot in the game where you're like, yeah, this assassination has like a 95%, it's going to be super easy, but I'm not going to do that because I want to get these higher tie breaks. I want to make sure I get more control points. I want to make sure I get more points destroyed. And then that way, if I ever lose a game, you know, maybe instead of coming in 8th, I'll come in 6th, right? Something like that. And, you know, you shouldn't be confused with the idea that sometimes when you're playing the game, it's like, well, I could assassinate, but it's only a 60%, whereas if I go for scenario, it's going to be a 90%. It's not that type of idea at all, where you're trying to give yourself the best odds. You might already have the best odds laid towards you, and you're actually going to go with something else that actually probably gives you a higher chance of losing, right? You could win the game right now, but by extending the game, you might actually lose. So that's a very, very different concept to keep in mind between what farming is and what is extending the game because it gives you a better chance of winning. So let's first talk about the good. And the good is actually pretty obvious, right? If you're a person who actively does this all the time, looks at what the tie breaks are, always making sure to maximize those, well, in general, overall your tournaments, you're going to be ranking higher. When you go in there and you're like, hey, I could win this one right now, but I'm at, 1 CP. How about I get those CPs higher? It's just clearly a better thing when it comes to your stats at the end of the day. You're just going to have more control points, and if you wanted to, you could also go for more points destroyed. Hey, I could win right now, but I'm not going to because I've actually killed some very little stuff, and I want to kill some more. Maybe it's a turn where you're going to be assassinating, and you decide, okay, I'm going to assassinate anyway, but before I do that plan, I'm going to activate everything else to destroy as much as I can so I get more points destroyed. Or maybe one of those things you destroy is like an objective to get 1 control point, and then you continue on and go for the assassination. So it could even be in that same turn. It doesn't even have to be something that goes and extends the game. You're just really saying, okay, I want to get more points so I get a higher ranking. And it's, when you're looking at the good, it's pretty clear cut why it's a very smart thing to do. Well, then what's the bad? Well, there's actually quite a bit of bad. Now, the very first part of it we touched on already, and that's the idea that if you're doing it at all, you're probably including more risk. Now, let's say you could win right now, but you're just going to extend the game to try and get control points. Well, your opponent then has more chances, turn after turn after turn, to try and switch things around on you. And you never know when they go for that long bomb assassination, and it's just 6s for days, and you die, and you're like, huh, I could have won this game, and now I lost. Or in that one example we gave, or you're going for the assassination, but, I'll make sure these other things go for a control point there and destroy some more models here. Well, If your other part fails and you don't actually get the assassination, one more shot or attack from all your other stuff might have been the thing that actually ended the assassination. And if you fail that assassination, well, wow, you could be then all of a sudden hooped. But definitely, if you go and you extend the game, and this is not a one-turn thing, you are now getting a chance to be a part of the game. Where, hey, they get lucky and they destroy some more things than you thought, and all of a sudden the game can completely turn on you. So you have to be very careful and very measured in the way that you do this, because, again, if one of those long ball assassinations happen, wow, you will look like quite the fool. Now, that's not even the worst part. I think one of the worst parts of going and farming your opponent is actually your opponent. If you're farming your opponent and they realize it, it's a very annoying thing to know. I mean, all of us have been in games that we've lost, and it's not a comfortable thing. You're not sitting there going like, oh boy, I'm losing. You're sitting there going like, well, I lost, man. I should have done this and this and this. All right, well, let's get this over with. What? You're not going to get this over with? You're going to push this all the way through? And you can really piss them off, right? A person who learns that they're being toyed with, and it's not even just saying like, okay, I'm going to beat you in this game, but it's saying, I am dominating you so much that I'm just going to leave you there like a little rag doll, where I'm just going to like clean up and get all the other points I want. I'm just completely taking all I want from you because I have such complete control of you. And that can become really frustrating and very insulting. So if you're doing that and it's something where like you extend it one more turn to get the control points, okay, sure, maybe it's not so bad. But if you have to extend this like 4 more turns, that can get really, really awkward. In fact, a lot of times when I'm trying to do that, I'll actually let my opponents know. I'll say, all right, look, buddy, it was a great game, but I mean, we had some big turning points. It's now heavily in my favor. Look, man, I'm not doing so great in this tournament. I just want to make sure I get a couple of spots higher. So just so you know, thanks for the game. It's been great, but I'm just going to go now and try and kill off what I can, get a few more control points just for my standings. And you know what? They might totally accept that and say like, that's awesome and that's great, but it can also go 2 other ways. One, you could tell them and you could be having the full intention of saying like, hey buddy, it's all been great, but I'm just doing this for myself. Well, that could be the spot where if they didn't know before that they're being farmed, now they do, and they could get really, really angry. So if you judge the person wrong, wow, this could get really bad. The other part of it too is that they could actually just say, well, okay, now that I know that you're specifically not going to kill my caster, it's now balls to the wall. So whereas normally a player would have played a little bit more reserved and a little bit more safe, always trying to camp a few, especially now that you've lost a lot of things and they're worried about assassination, well, if they do not have to worry about assassination, all of a sudden where normally you expect that caster to be hiding back and being safe, now he's just charging out there, trying to take out jacks, trying to fling spells at your boss, trying to get those 666s. So where I talked about where, of course, naturally extending the game is going to naturally make it so that there's more of a chance that you can lose, well, all of a sudden that just becomes even greater, where if your opponent realizes that's what's happening and they're just going for those chances, yeah, it can be very, very bad for you. So in the end, I mean, it's something where if you decide to go for it, we talked about the good, like, hey, more points is awesome, but man, you can piss people off, and well deserved, right? I mean, that's the reason why this is kind of like a touchy subject, because on the one side, it's such a clearly good thing to do because, hey, I'm getting more points, but on the other side, it can be so insulting to the other player and so frustrating that it can just completely take away the enjoyment of the tournament for both of you. And man, if it ever gets caught, it's like, wow, okay, you're doing this, and I'm gonna go for this long bomb assassinations, and you actually lose that game, whew, the shame will be great. Now, there's one last realistic thing that you have to keep in mind too with this, is that there's only so much effect you're having on your actual placements because of doing this, right? Depending on the size of the tournament, you know, and also the type of the tournament, right? If the tournament is based where the first tiebreak is going to be control points, well then, wow, yeah, get in there, get those control points, because clearly if I can get more control points, or even max them out, then hey, everybody else that had the same win-loss ratio as me, I'll be at the very, very top of that list. Now, that's an extreme. If it's more of a thing where you're just getting a little bit higher, well, then you just maybe might be going up like one spot, maybe nothing at all. And worse yet, if you're going to a tournament where, let's say it's strength of schedule. So first thing is going to be wins or losses. Okay, great. Second thing is going to be now strength of schedule. So whoever you played, you add up their wins and losses, and yeah, depending on how they did, that's what your score is. And then third is going to be control points. Well, then really, you going and doing farming is going to have a very small effect. It might maybe get you up like the 1 or 2 spots, maybe at best, but it could also very easily do nothing for you whatsoever. So you definitely have to be very careful when applying this, because like I said, that list of the bad parts can be very, very great, and the extra rewards could be very, very small. So there you go, guys. Please put down below your comments. You know, what do you think about farming? Is it something you've done? And I gotta say for myself, this is something I've done at several tournaments, but whenever I do it, I am very, very cautious, and I am always very sure that I am up in front with my opponent. And sometimes they'll just say too, like, okay, I understand it. You know what? Let's just say you win, you get full control points because I'm done playing, and if that's what you want to do, hey, I understand, but I just don't want to play. And that's fine too, so maybe that can be a win-win. But I just love to hear what you guys' thoughts are on it. Post it down below, and otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.